An entire civilization of beings exists just beyond your sight. They are not the angels of light or the demons of shadow you might know, but creatures forged from a primordial and smokeless fire. These are the Djinn, and their hidden history is woven into the very fabric of our world, from ancient deserts to modern city streets. By the end of this journey, you will possess a complete understanding of these elusive entities, tracing their evolution from desert gods to pop culture genies. We will uncover why a powerful king could command them to build temples, and explore what happens when a human mind becomes entangled with their fiery will. What does the persistence of their legend tell us about our own place in the universe? To understand the Djinn, you must first forget the lamp. The modern image of a genie granting 3 wishes is a tiny, glittering fragment of a much older and darker truth. At their origin, Djinn are something far more profound, intelligent entities fashioned from a substance called smokeless fire. This is their fundamental essence, a detail preserved for millennia. In the ancient traditions of the Middle East, and later within Islamic theology, creation itself is stratified by its elemental composition. Angels are beings of pure, obedient light. Humanity, as the biblical and Quranic narratives tell us, is shaped from the dust of the earth, from clay, and between these two, born from a primordial and scorching element, are the Djinn. Their very name reveals their core nature. The Arabic root jinn means to hide, to conceal, to be veiled. They are the hidden ones by their very definition, entities that exist just out of phase with our material reality, perceiving us when we cannot perceive them. This makes them more than just monsters or fairies. They are a complete parallel creation. Like humans, they possess free will, meaning they can choose good or evil, faith or disbelief, compassion or malice. They live, they die, they form societies, and they hold beliefs. They are not forces of nature, but individuals with desires and agendas, all shaped by that fiery origin which grants them abilities and perceptions beyond our own. Long before the lamp and the 3 wishes, the deserts of Arabia whispered with a different kind of power. To understand the Djinn's true nature, we must journey back to a time when the sands were not empty, but deeply, spiritually alive. The pre-Islamic world of the Arabian Peninsula was a tapestry of animistic belief, where every rock, well, and lonely valley possessed a spirit, a raw and potent consciousness. These were not yet the Djinn of structured theology. They were the original inhabitants of a world seen through ancient eyes. Powerful nomadic tribes, like the Banu Tamim or the Quraysh, did not worship a single distant god in the sky. Their devotion was local and immediate, offered to the spirits of the oasis that gave them life, or the genius of the mountain pass that offered protection. These spirits were capricious, demanding respect and tribute. A traveler would leave a small offering at a distinctive stone, a whispered plea for safe passage. A poet seeking inspiration might spend a night in a haunted ruin, hoping a spirit would gift him with words. From this fertile ground of belief, the concept of the Djinn crystallized. The most powerful of these spirits became more than just local phenomena. They were seen as deities in their own right. Alat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, the 3 great goddesses of Mecca, were considered by many to be supremely powerful jinniya, female jinn, who acted as intermediaries between the human world and the divine. They were guardians but also potential destroyers, their moods as shifting as the desert winds. This is the crucial context. The Djinn began not as monsters, but as gods and guardians, woven into the daily survival and spiritual landscape of an entire people. Their transformation from these worshipped desert powers into the hidden race of Islamic tradition marks one of the most fascinating shifts in religious history, a story of how new doctrines absorb and redefine the old spirits of the land. Then a revelation echoed across the desert that would redefine the universe. The arrival of Islam and the revelation of the Quran did not erase the ancient spirits of Arabia, it transformed them. In a profound theological shift, the Djinn were formally integrated into a vast, structured cosmos. The Quran acknowledges their existence as a fundamental truth, dedicating an entire chapter, Surah al-Jinn, to their story. This chapter recounts a pivotal moment, a group of jinn, hidden from human sight, overhearing the Prophet Muhammad recite the sacred verses at night. Moved by the power and truth of the message, they are said to have believed immediately, returning to their own kind to warn them and call them to faith. This single narrative changed everything. It established that jinn, like humans, are moral beings with free will, subject to the same divine law. They are not mere forces of nature, but creatures accountable for their choices. A jinn could be a devout Muslim, a follower of another path, or a staunch unbeliever. This formalized their place in a clear hierarchy beneath angels but alongside humanity, as another creation tasked with a purpose. The capricious desert gods and guardian spirits were now contextualized within a grander design, their power checked by a higher authority, their existence given a spiritual destiny. This theological framework provided a new lens through which to understand every strange whisper in the dark, every unexplained event. It was no longer just a random spirit, but a conscious being making a choice. This new cosmic order did not erase their ancient societies, it merely revealed their structure. Like humanity, the world of the jinn is not a chaotic free-for-all, but a complex civilization with its own strict hierarchies, rulers, and social classes. Their societies are often mirrored in our own, but shaped by their fiery essence and hidden nature. Classical Islamic lore and regional folklore describe a detailed taxonomy, a hierarchy of fire. At the pinnacle stand their kings and rulers, beings of immense power and age. Names like King Shamar or Malik al-Jan are whispered in ancient texts, sovereigns who command legions of jinn and govern vast, unseen territories. Their courts are said to be places of terrifying splendor, and to earn the favor or enmity of such a ruler is a perilous endeavor for any human. Beneath these monarchs, jinn are categorized into distinct tribes or classes, each with defining traits. The merit are often considered the most powerful and rebellious, frequently associated with the depths of the oceans and great bodies of water, their strength as vast and untamable as the sea. Then come the Ifrit, beings of cunning and formidable strength, crafted from the very heart of fire itself, often depicted as masters of illusion and formidable warriors in their own conflicts. The ghoul is a class familiar from desert tales, shape-shifting tricksters and scavengers that haunt lonely places, sometimes masquerading as animals or even lost travelers to lead the unwary astray. In contrast, the sealer represent a subtler, often more benevolent type, associated with domestic spaces and known to sometimes form protective bonds with human households. This social structure dictates everything: their behavior, their inherent abilities, and the very nature of their interactions with our world. A Marid might be petitioned for a great, difficult task, while an encounter with a ghoul is almost always a test of wits and perception. Understanding this hidden hierarchy is key, for it transforms them from a vague supernatural threat into a nation of individuals, with all the alliances, rivalries, and politics that entails. Their complex societies require spaces just as intricate, realms where the fire of their being can exist undisturbed. So where does this hidden civilization actually live? To find them, you must learn to see the world not as a map of human cities, but as a tapestry of liminal spaces, places of transition and raw, untamed energy. Forget the solitary lamp, their true domains are the empty lands, the wild places untouched by human order, the deep desert where the wind sculpts dunes into impossible shapes and the silence is a physical presence, is a classic Djinn stronghold. So are the high, lonely mountains, where the air thins and the world below seems like a dream. Ancient ruins, especially those abandoned after conflict or catastrophe, are deeply attractive to them, as they resonate with the memory of human emotion and the passage of time. Thick primordial forests, where light filters through a dense canopy and the paths seem to shift, are another favored habitat. These are not random choices. Each location shares a common thread. They are boundaries, places where the structured human world gives way to something older and more chaotic. Crossroads, where decisions are made and paths diverge, are famously potent meeting points between realms. Even within the human home, specific areas are traditionally considered their territory. Bathrooms and places associated with bodily impurity are often cited as spaces where the veil is thin, precisely because they represent the raw, biological processes that civilization seeks to manage and conceal. These are the cracks in our world, the seams where their reality bleeds into ours, and time itself has its own thin places. Midnight, the pivot between one day and the next, is a potent hour. The moments during a solar or lunar eclipse, when the familiar lights of heaven are obscured, are seen as times when the usual rules are suspended. To stand in a ruin at midnight, or at a desert crossroads during an eclipse, is to stand at a cosmic intersection. It is in these liminal zones, these empty lands between the maps, that the world of smokeless fire draws closest, waiting just beyond the edge of your perception. But how do these hidden beings cross over from their liminal realms into ours? Their physical manifestations are as varied and deceptive as their nature, a testament to their mastery of form. Unlike ghosts or spirits often tied to a single appearance, the Djinn are consummate shapeshifters, their true essence of smokeless fire allowing them to cloak themselves in almost any guise. The most common forms are those that blend seamlessly into our environment. A solitary black dog with unnaturally intelligent eyes, watching from the edge of a road at dusk. A snake of unusual size and color, motionless in a place no snake should be. A cat that seems to observe a household with a knowing, almost judgmental gaze. These animal forms are not random. They are deliberate camouflage, allowing the Djinn to move and observe without raising immediate alarm in the human mind, which is quick to rationalize the familiar. Their ability to mimic humans is far more unsettling. There are countless folk tales from North Africa to South Asia of a traveler meeting a lone figure on a dark path, engaging in conversation, only for the figure to vanish or reveal itself in a terrifying flash. Sometimes they take the form of a beautiful stranger, a lost child, or even a perfect replica of someone you know, all to lure, test, or interact with humanity on their own terms. At their most disturbing, they can appear as monstrous hybrids, creatures of nightmare that stitch together incompatible parts, a being with the body of a man and the head of a beast, or a swirling mass of shadows with piercing points of light for eyes. Many researchers of the modern paranormal point to the widespread phenomenon of the shadow person, that fleeting, dark, humanoid silhouette seen in peripheral vision as a potential contemporary Djinn manifestation, a being of condensed darkness observing from the threshold. In their rawest, least disguised state, they might be perceived as a wisp of strange, cold smoke coiling against a wall, a sudden, heatless column of fire in the desert night, or a humanoid figure seen at a distance whose proportions subtly distort and waver like a mirage. This chameleonic nature is not a parlor trick. It is the very core of their power and secrecy. To see a Djinn is never to see it truly, only the costume it has chosen for that moment, a deliberate veil that keeps their fiery civilization forever hidden just behind the mask of the world. The desire to command such power is a timeless human temptation. Across centuries and cultures, there exists a dark thread of stories about those who sought not just to see the Djinn, but to bind them, to forge pacts and compel their service. This is the perilous realm of the Djinn-human pact, a transaction where the currency is rarely gold, but something far more precious. In the classical Islamic worldview, this falls under the domain of sihr, a term often translated as magic or sorcery, but specifically denoting a forbidden art that seeks to manipulate the unseen world through illicit means. A practitioner of sihr might spend years mastering complex rituals, intricate talismans, and whispered incantations, all aimed at summoning a Djinn and forcing it into servitude. The goal was never friendship, it was domination. Folk tales from Morocco to Indonesia speak of sorcerers who, through such grim determination, gained legendary Djinn servants. These bound entities could be tasked with guarding hidden treasure, spying on enemies, or even constructing great works overnight, echoing the ancient tales of King Solomon. One such story tells of a proud sorcerer who commanded his Djinn to build a magnificent palace in the desert, a testament to his power. The palace rose from the sands in a single night, flawless and breathtaking. But the sorcerer, in his arrogance, forgot the final stipulation of his own ritual. At dawn, as the first light touched the highest tower, the entire structure and the sorcerer within it vanished as if it had never been, leaving only a ripple in the sand. The pact, built on coercion, is inherently unstable, a cage that can easily turn on its jailer. Yet not all alliances begin with a ritual blade and a circle of salt. Some are accidental, born from desperation or simple, tragic curiosity. A traveler lost in a storm might cry out for help to any listening power, and a voice from the wind may answer, offering guidance for a future favor, its terms dangerously vague. A person digging a well might unearth a strange, sealed vessel, not out of sorcerous intent, but sheer luck, and in a moment of impulsive hope, break it open. These are the tales of accidental pacts, where the human enters the agreement without fully understanding the nature of the other party or the fine print of the deal. The Djinn in such stories often appears initially as a benevolent helper, granting sudden wealth, healing a loved one, or bringing a beloved suitor to the door. For a time, life is charmed, but the price when it comes is subtle and corrosive. The newfound wealth might bring with it a creeping paranoia, a sense of being constantly watched. The healed family member may become emotionally distant, their eyes holding a strange, unfamiliar light. The story always turns on the realization that the Djinn service is not a gift, but a loan, and the interest compounds in the currency of the human soul. The beneficiary slowly loses what made them human, their laughter, their capacity for simple joy, their connection to others, replaced by a cold dependency on their unseen partner. Their sanity becomes the collateral held by a being of smokeless fire. The promised rewards in these tales are seductively human: fame, wealth, revenge, love. The sorcerer or the desperate individual seeks to bypass life struggles through supernatural leverage. A poet might bind a Djinn to ensure his verses always enchant his audience, only to find his own voice slowly silenced, becoming merely a conduit for another's words. A merchant might gain a Djinn to whisper the secrets of the market, amassing a fortune while his competitors fail. Yet he finds he can no longer taste his food or feel the warmth of the sun, his humanity numbed by the constant whisper of hidden knowledge. Revenge is perhaps the most dangerous motive of all. Stories warn of individuals who command Djinn to torment or destroy an enemy. The command is carried out with terrifying efficiency, but the vengeance never feels complete. The Djinn, understanding the corrosive nature of hatred, often ensures the user becomes consumed by that same darkness, turning the instrument of revenge into a prison of perpetual anger. The moral lesson etched into these centuries-old narratives is stark and consistent. Seeking to usurp power from a being of an older, fiercer creation unravels the seeker. The cost is never a single, dramatic payment, but a slow, existential erosion. You may gain the world, but in the process you forfeit the very self you sought to elevate. The soul, it seems, is too fragile a vessel to hold a piece of that primordial fire for long. Yet the most profound collision between our world and theirs occurs not in a desert or a ruin, but within the human body and mind. This is the realm of possession and affliction, known in Arabic as mass, a concept that moves beyond folklore into the serious arena of spiritual and physical health. From the Islamic and broader cultural perspective, a Djinn can cause a spectrum of human suffering, not out of pure evil, but often from motives as complex as our own. A Djinn might inhabit a human out of love, obsession, or a desire for revenge for an accidental offense, like being struck by wastewater thrown from a home. The resulting affliction is not a single symptom, but a cascade of disruptions. It can manifest as unexplained physical illnesses that defy medical diagnosis, chronic pain with no apparent source, or sudden seizures. More subtly, it can surface as profound mental and emotional disturbances, a rapid onset of crushing depression, paralyzing anxiety, or a personality that shifts dramatically, as if another consciousness is pressing against the mind from within. This is not portrayed as a metaphor, but as a literal occupation, a sharing of space within a human vessel by a being of smokeless fire. This concept stands in stark contrast to the classic Western idea of demonic possession. In the Hollywood narrative, possession is typically a battle of absolute good versus absolute evil, a holy war for a soul, marked by dramatic physical contortions and blasphemous speech. The Djinn-related mass, while sometimes sharing external signs, operates within a different framework. The possessing entity is not necessarily a purely evil demon from hell, but a willful being with its own history, emotions, and sometimes even a claim it believes is just. The goal is not always the damnation of the soul, but often a more mundane, if terrifying, desire for companionship, residence, or retribution. This nuance changes the entire approach to treatment. Enter the Raki, the traditional exorcist or spiritual healer. This is not a dramatic figure waving a crucifix, but often a deeply knowledgeable and pious individual, sometimes a religious scholar, who acts as a mediator and healer. The primary method of treatment is the ruqya, the recitation of specific verses from the Quran and supplications from the traditions of the Prophet. The power is believed to reside not in the healer himself, but in the divine words, which act as a purifying force intolerable to the Djinn. A session typically involves the Raki speaking directly to the possessing entity, first seeking to identify its nature and motive through a dialogue with the afflicted person, whose voice may change or answer for the Djinn. The recitation is then applied, a relentless and focused invocation meant to compel the Djinn to leave, often negotiated with the condition that it ceases its harm and is forbidden from returning. It is a process of spiritual authority and law, not just brute force. This practice brings the lore of the Djinn into a stark, real-world context, where faith, medicine, and the unseen world intersect in the struggle for a person's health and sanity. It reminds us that in cultures where this belief is held, the Djinn are not just creatures of story, but a potential explanation for life's most inexplicable and personal sufferings. A dusty manuscript from the 10th century holds a story that perfectly captures the intricate dance between humanity and the Djinn. The historian al-Masudi, in his great work The Meadows of Gold, recounts the tale of a solitary scholar and a powerful Ifrit, a narrative that reveals more about their nature than any theological treatise. This scholar, deeply immersed in his studies, was known to spend his nights reading by lamplight in a secluded corner of a mosque. One evening, he felt a powerful, unseen presence. Instead of fleeing, he calmly addressed the empty air, acknowledging the visitor. From the shadows, an Ifrit materialized, not as a monster, but in a form that reflected respect, that of a dignified elder. The Ifrit explained he had been observing the scholar for some time, drawn not by malice, but by the man's dedication to learning. He was captivated by the human pursuit of knowledge, something his own eternal existence lacked. He proposed a bargain, not of servitude, but of exchange, in return for the simple gift of the scholar's companionship. For someone to converse with through the long nights, the Ifrit would share a fraction of his own ancient wisdom. The scholar, driven by an insatiable curiosity, agreed. What followed was a years-long partnership that blurred every line. The Ifrit became a nightly visitor, a tutor of immense capability. He taught the scholar languages lost to history, the secrets of the stars seen from angles no human could perceive. and philosophies from civilizations that vanished before recorded time. The scholar's reputation grew exponentially, his insights astounding his peers, yet the relationship was never that of a master and a servant. It was a genuine, if profoundly strange, friendship. They debated, they shared moments of silence, and the Ifrit displayed clear emotional depth, showing favoritism, humor, and even vulnerability. The scholar learned that the Ifrit, for all his power, experienced a deep loneliness, a longing for meaningful connection that his own kind could not provide. The knowledge was not a payment extracted, but a gift offered in the context of a bond. This story dismantles simplistic notions. Here, the Djinn is not a wish granter or a possessive spirit, but an intellectual peer, emotionally complex and valuing human qualities he himself lacks. The ambiguity is the core of the tale. Was this a true friendship between two intelligent beings, or was the scholar, in his awe and gratitude, slowly becoming bound to a creature whose lifespan and perspective he could never truly match? The companionship itself became the pact, more binding than any written contract. The story ends without dramatic betrayal, but with a quiet, haunting note. When the scholar eventually died of natural causes, the Ifrit was said to have mourned openly at his grave, his lamentations a chilling wind that echoed through the cemetery. He then vanished, never to seek another human companion. This poignant conclusion reveals a profound truth. The Djinn, in their own way, can seek something as human as connection, and the consequences of such a bond resonate across both worlds, leaving neither party unchanged. That poignant lament at the scholar's grave marks a world away from the grinning, blue genie singing about a whole new world. The transformation of the Djinn from a complex being of smokeless fire into a wish-granting plot device is a story of cultural translation and loss. It begins with a book. In the early 18th century, a French scholar named Antoine Galland published his translation of a collection of Middle Eastern folk tales, 1001 Nights. His work was a sensation, introducing a fascinated European audience to a realm of magic carpets, flying horses, and most lastingly, the genie in the lamp from the tale of Aladdin. But in that translation, something fundamental shifted. The Arabic term Djinn was rendered as the French génie, a word that in European tradition already meant a tutelary spirit, a guardian genius of a place or person. This linguistic choice, however accidental, began the process of simplification. The vast, morally ambiguous civilization of fire was condensed into a single, powerful slave bound to an object, whose primary function was to grant wishes and whose greatest desire was freedom. This was a narrative engine perfectly suited to European fairy tales, but it stripped away the Djinn's autonomy, its society, and its spiritual dimension. It became a magical puppet, its will subsumed by the plot. This simplified version took root and flourished in Western popular culture, growing further from its origins with each retelling. The genie became a comedic, often bumbling figure, a source of magical mayhem with a heart of gold, as seen in everything from early Hollywood cartoons to the iconic 1992 Disney film, Aladdin. Here, the Djinn is a charismatic, shape-shifting entertainer, a friend and liberator, its only real connection to the older lore being its immense power and confinement. This portrayal, while beloved, completed the transformation from a hidden, intelligent race to a friendly, domesticated magical servant. Television series like Supernatural or Doctor Who occasionally dip back into the darker, more traditional well, presenting Djinn as terrifying predators that feed on human life force or trap victims in dream worlds, but these are often presented as another type of monster in a bestiary, losing the crucial nuance of their personhood and culture. In video games, they are typically powerful elemental summons or boss enemies, a source of fire magic rather than a conscious being with motives. This cultural export represents a profound dilution. The intricate hierarchy of Marid, Ifrit, and Ghoul collapses into a single archetype. The concept of free will and moral accountability vanishes, replaced by magical programming. The deep spiritual framework that explains their existence and their relationship to humanity is discarded for straightforward fantasy mechanics. The Djinn becomes a trope, a narrative shortcut for unlimited power with ironic consequences. What is lost in this translation is the very thing that made them so compelling in their original context, their ambiguity. They were never just monsters or slaves, they were a mirror, a parallel civilization that reflected our own capacities for faith, malice, love, and loneliness. By reducing them to a wish-granting function, we lost a profound exploration of the other, a chance to consider what intelligent, non-human consciousness might look like, and what happens when it brushes against our own. The lamp is a cage, not just for the genie, but for our own understanding, limiting a vast, fiery cosmos to a single, glittering prison. The dusty pages of forbidden books promise a power older than nations. Across centuries, hidden within the locked libraries of sultans and the secret studies of occultists, a parallel tradition flourished, one dedicated not to fearing the Djinn, but to commanding them. This is the world of the grimoire, the manual of magical practice, and its most infamous text concerning the Djinn is the Shams al-Ma'arif, the Son of Knowledge. Attributed to the 13th century scholar Ahmad al-Buni, this sprawling and cryptic work is not a storybook, but a technical manual. It claims to lay bare the architecture of the unseen, offering its reader the ultimate forbidden knowledge, the protocols for summoning and binding the beings of smokeless fire. To open such a text is to step into a labyrinth of symbols and stipulations, where every step is governed by ritual purity and precise intention. The practitioner must first prepare themselves through fasting and specific prayers, purifying their body and focusing their will. The location is critical, often a liminal space like a ruin or a deserted crossroads, chosen for its thinness. Then come the tools, each charged with meaning. Talismans, intricate designs inscribed on virgin parchment or engraved onto metals like copper or lead, act as focal points and containers for the invoked power. These are not random drawings, but complex geometric seals, each line and angle corresponding to celestial influences or the true name of a specific type of Djinn. The most crucial element, however, is the incantation. These are not generic magic words, but specific du'as, prayers, and verses recited in a precise order, often combining Quranic passages with older, esoteric phrases believed to hold power over the unseen realms. The ritual itself is a high-stakes negotiation, a display of spiritual authority where the human practitioner, armed with divine names and sacred geometry, attempts to assert dominance over a being vastly more powerful than themselves. The goal is to compel the Djinn to appear, to state its name, and to bind it by oath to perform a service, whether that is revealing hidden treasure, teaching secret knowledge, or acting as a guardian. But every grim warning in these texts screams a single truth. This is a transaction with a master deceiver. The Djinn summoned are not obedient slaves, they are intelligent entities forced into a contract against their will. Their first and greatest weapon is deception. A summoned Djinn might appear in a pleasing form, offering flattery and easy compliance, only to twist every command with literal, destructive precision. It might provide true knowledge, but deliver it in a way that breeds arrogance and spiritual ruin in the practitioner. The classic warning is the granted wish that unravels the wisher's life, a sudden fortune that brings with it envy, betrayal, and isolation. The texts caution that a Djinn may agree to be bound to a talisman, but it will constantly seek a flaw in the ritual, a moment of impurity or doubt in the practitioner's heart, to break its bonds and turn on its would-be master. The stories from those who claim to have walked this path are tales of Pyrrhic victories. A man might gain a Djinn servant to make him a great healer, only to find he can cure others but is himself afflicted with a wasting sickness no medicine can touch. Another might command a Djinn to make him loved and respected, and wake to find himself surrounded by admirers whose eyes hold no genuine warmth, only a glassy, compelled obedience that feels more lonely than hatred. This is the core of the forbidden knowledge, It offers the illusion of control over the fiery and hidden, but at the cost of engaging in a battle of wits where the opponent has eternity to wait for you to make a single fatal mistake. The grimoires present a path to power, but their subtext is a relentless sermon on the ultimate fragility of the human will when it dares to try and unleash the primal fire of creation. The forbidden knowledge of the grimoires speaks to a deep and universal human impulse, a feeling that the world is not as empty as it seems. This intuition of a hidden, intelligent layer to reality is not unique to the deserts of Arabia. In fact, the Djinn can be seen as one powerful, culturally specific answer to a question humanity has asked everywhere. Look to the misty hills of Ireland and Scotland, and you will find the Fae. Like the Djinn, they are a parallel race, living in a world that overlaps our own, often in ancient mounds or wild forests. They possess capricious natures, capable of breathtaking generosity or cruel mischief. They are known to make pacts with humans, offering gifts or services, but their agreements are famously perilous, filled with trickery and hidden clauses that can cost a person their freedom or their soul. The similarities are striking: a hidden society, a connection to wild places, and a dangerous allure for those who seek their power. Travel across the world to Japan, and the tradition of the yokai offers another fascinating mirror. Yokai are not a single type of being, but a vast category of spirits, monsters, and phenomena. Some are harmless tricksters, others are vengeful ghosts, and many are nature spirits tied to specific locations, like a river, a mountain, or even an old tree. This spectrum of temperament and form directly echoes the Djinn hierarchy, from the protective Sila to the malevolent Ifrit. A yokai might appear as a beautiful woman one moment and a terrifying beast the next, showcasing the same shape-shifting prowess attributed to Djinn. Both traditions understand the unseen world as populated by a diverse ecology of conscious beings, each with their own rules and relationships to humanity. This pattern repeats across continents. In many West African spiritual systems, there are countless spirits associated with natural forces, ancestors, and specific places, entities that must be respected and can be petitioned, but also offended. Various Native American traditions speak of the little people or other spirit beings that inhabit the wilderness, who can offer guidance to the respectful but lead the arrogant astray. These are not cases of one culture copying another, but of independent human experiences converging on a similar truth. The human mind, when confronted with the vastness of a dark forest, the mystery of a sudden illness, or the strange luck of a journey, has repeatedly reached for a similar explanation: an unseen intelligence with its own will. What does this global chorus of belief tell us? It suggests the Djinn are more than just a Middle Eastern folklore character. They are a profound articulation of a nearly universal human experience. We have always sensed that we share this world. The rustle in the leaves might be the wind, or it might be something listening. The strange dream might be a random firing of neurons, or a message from a realm just beyond the curtain of sleep. The Djinn, the Fae, the yokai, they all give a face and a story to that persistent feeling of a presence in the empty room, a consciousness in the storm. They represent humanity's attempt to map the unmapped, to personify the mysterious agencies that seem to operate alongside the laws of physics. In giving them form, we are not just inventing monsters, we are attempting a dialogue with the unknown itself, crafting a mythology to explain why the world feels so deeply, mysteriously alive. That persistent feeling of a presence is the very bridge from ancient lore to modern mystery. While traditional frameworks explain the Djinn through theology and folklore, the contemporary seeker often reaches for a different vocabulary, one that blends the esoteric with the edges of theoretical science. In modern metaphysical circles, the Djinn are frequently reinterpreted not as religious entities, but as interdimensional beings. This idea suggests our reality is not a single layer, but a stack of dimensions like pages in a book, each with its own laws and inhabitants. From this perspective, the Djinn are not magical creatures living in our deserts. but beings whose native dimension exists very close to our own, in a parallel space we cannot normally perceive. Their ability to appear and vanish, to shift form, and to ignore physical barriers is not magic, but a natural function of moving between these dimensional membranes. Their smokeless fire essence could be a metaphor for a form of energy or matter that simply does not exist in our three-dimensional plus time continuum. This model elegantly explains their elusive nature. They are not here, then there, they are shifting their vibrational state or sliding along an axis we cannot comprehend. Another compelling modern interpretation views them as manifestations of chaotic psychic energy. In this framework, places charged with intense human emotion, like sites of battle, passion, or trauma, can act as psychic capacitors. Over time, this raw, unstructured emotional residue might coalesce into a semi-autonomous consciousness, a thought form that takes on a life of its own. A djinn born from centuries of fear in a particular forest, or from the concentrated grief of a ruined city, would naturally reflect those emotions in its interactions. It is not a separate creation from fire, but a creation from the fire of human experience, an elemental born of the collective unconscious. This ties directly into the third common view, that of Djinn as classic earth-bound elementals, but with a crucial update. In Western esoteric traditions, elementals are spirits intrinsic to the natural world, gnomes of earth, sylphs of air, undines of water, and salamanders of fire. The Djinn in this system are seen as the true salamanders, not literal lizards, but conscious expressions of the fire element in its most primal and intelligent form. They are the living will of combustion, transformation, and plasma, the sentient patterns within the flame. Some practitioners even correlate them with specific energetic ley lines or geological fault lines, places where the Earth's own fiery core energy breaches the surface. Where does speculative science enter this conversation? Proponents of these ideas often point to concepts in quantum physics, not as proof, but as a conceptual toolkit. The principle of non-locality, where particles can be instantaneously connected across vast distances, hints at a universe far more interconnected than it appears. Could a being composed of such interconnected energy perceive and move through our world in non-local ways? Theories of a holographic universe, where all information is encoded on a two-dimensional surface and projected into our three-dimensional experience, suggest reality itself is a kind of illusion. If that is the case, then beings who can manipulate that projection, who can edit the hologram, would fit the description of a djinn perfectly. String theory, with its proposal of 10 or more spatial dimensions curled up at a microscopic scale, provides another potential habitat, a whole cosmology of hidden spaces. These scientific concepts are not used to validate the existence of djinn, but to provide a modern, rational language for the perennial experience of the other. They allow the 21st century mind to engage with the mystery without abandoning a scientific worldview, framing the djinn not as supernatural, but as supernatural, operating within laws of physics we are only beginning to glimpse. This modernization does not dismiss the old stories, it translates them. It asks us to consider that when a medieval scholar spoke of smokeless fire, he might have been describing a state of matter we now call plasma. When a folklore tale warns of a djinn's ability to be in two places at once, it might be describing quantum superposition. The ancient desert and the modern laboratory become different windows into the same vast, unexplained reality. The djinn, therefore, evolved from mythological figures into potential indicators, signposts pointing toward the profound strangeness of a universe that is far more layered, conscious, and alive than our everyday senses report. A grandmother's warning holds a different kind of truth than a scholar's text. Across the world, in quiet kitchens and around late-night fires, people share stories that are never written down, personal testimonies of brushes with the hidden ones. These are not myths, but memories passed through families with the weight of lived experience. In a small village in Pakistan, a man recalls his childhood home, where every night at precisely 3 a.m., the distinct sound of heavy furniture being dragged across the empty rooftop would wake the household. Investigations revealed nothing, no marks, no displaced objects. The family learned to accept it as the nightly activity of an unseen resident, a sound that ceased only when they finally moved away. From the American Southwest comes an account from a hiker who swears he spent an entire afternoon conversing with a friendly, knowledgeable stranger at a remote desert crossroads, only to turn his head for a moment and find the man utterly vanished, with no footprints leading away in the endless sand. In North Africa, a woman tells of a family Djinn, a presence known for generations that would announce itself by the scent of ozone and a sudden chill, often preceding both good fortune and minor misfortunes within the home, treated not as a monster, but as a temperamental, inherited neighbor. The common threads in these disparate accounts are uncanny. There is the pervasive, skin-crawling sensation of being intently watched by something in an empty room. There are the small, physical disturbances, keys that disappear from a table only to be found in the center of the floor, pictures that tilt on their own, or lights that flicker in a steady, rhythmic pattern, unlike any electrical fault. Auditory phenomena are frequent, from the clear sound of footsteps pacing in an attic above an empty space, to whispers that seem to come from just behind the shoulder, to intricate music or chanting heard from a nearby forest or desert gully in the dead of night. Perhaps most common are the vivid, hyper-realistic dreams, where the dreamer encounters a specific, memorable entity who delivers a message, a warning, or a request, dreams that linger upon waking with a clarity and emotional residue far beyond ordinary sleep. To analyze these stories is to walk a line between two worlds. A purely skeptical view might attribute them to sleep paralysis, auditory hallucinations, the brain's pattern-seeking faculty misinterpreting natural sounds, or the power of suggestion within a cultural framework. Yet the psychological explanation does not fully dissolve the mystery, it merely shifts its location. Why does the human mind, across unrelated cultures, consistently generate such similar sensory experiences when trying to explain the unknown? The feeling of being watched taps into our most primal survival instinct. Unexplained sounds and movements in a safe environment trigger a deep-seated need to identify potential threats. The persistent figure in dreams may represent a psychological archetype, the other, the hidden self, or the embodiment of fate. These stories, whether rooted in external reality or internal psychology, serve a profound function. They are a narrative technology for navigating fear and mystery. By giving a name and a pattern to the inexplicable, Djinn, the Fae, the yokai we transform random, terrifying chaos into a story with rules, however strange. This story allows for coping, for ritual, for a way to say, this is not meaningless, this is an intelligence and we can learn to live with it, respect it, or avoid it. The sheer endurance of these personal encounter narratives, whispered for centuries, tells us less about the absolute existence of smokeless fire beings, and more about a fundamental human need. We are compelled to populate the darkness with consciousness, because a universe that is merely empty and mechanical is, in a deep way, more terrifying than one that is alive and watching. These anecdotes are the human heart's testimony against the void, a stubborn insistence that we are not alone in the quiet house, the deep desert, or the landscape of our own dreams. This tension between formal doctrine and lived experience creates a fascinating fault line within the faith itself. On one side stands the clear, uncompromising theology of Orthodox Islam, which places Allah as the sole source of all power and protection. The Quran and the traditions of the Prophet offer a direct and unmediated path for seeking refuge from harm, including that of the Djinn. Specific supplications, like reciting Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas, the last 2 chapters of the Quran, are prescribed for seeking divine protection. The core principle is Tawheed, the absolute oneness of God, which dictates that a believer should turn to God alone, From this perspective, any ritual or object that claims to independently ward off or control Djinn risks crossing into shirk, the association of partners with God, or at the very least bid'ah, a forbidden and superstitious innovation. Many scholars, both classical and contemporary, have issued warnings against the use of certain popular amulets, intricate spells, or the services of folk healers whose methods rely more on obscure symbols and whispered incantations than on the recited Quran. They argue that such practices implicitly grant power to the ritual or the practitioner, undermining the believer's direct reliance on the divine. This is the clean, doctrinal map. Yet across the Muslim world, from the markets of Marrakech to the villages of Bangladesh, you will find a vibrant, bustling landscape of folk practice that operates on a very different terrain. Here, the theoretical free will of the Djinn and the absolute power of God are mediated by a very human desire for a tangible, immediate solution. A mother worried about the evil eye might pin a blue bead or a small handwritten verse folded in leather to her child's clothing. A farmer might bury a sealed pot containing specific ingredients at the corner of his field to ward off Djinn thought to blight the crops. These practices are not seen as replacing faith in God, but as tools sanctioned by tradition, a practical application of faith using materials and methods passed down through generations. The folk healer or talib often operates in a gray area, using Quranic verses in his treatments but combining them with timing based on astrology, special inks, or physical gestures that are not found in the canonical texts. This creates a constant, low-grade theological debate. Is the blue bead merely a culturally accepted symbol, or does the wearer believe the bead itself holds power? Is the talib who writes a verse with saffron ink on a piece of fruit, which is then eaten, practicing a form of medicine or a dubious innovation? The friction is not about the existence of Djinn, which both sides affirm, but about the proper human response to them. The orthodox view champions spiritual purity and direct connection. The folk tradition champions spiritual practicality and cultural continuity. This divergence reveals a profound truth about lived religion. For millions, doctrine provides the framework, but folklore provides the daily vocabulary. When a child falls mysteriously ill, a parent may perfectly believe in God's ultimate will, but they may also, out of love and desperation, seek out the local wise woman who knows the old prayers. This isn't necessarily a crisis of faith. It is often a layering of solutions, an attempt to cover every possible basis in a universe that includes visible germs and invisible fiery beings. The tension itself is a testament to the enduring, unsettling reality of the Djinn in the human imagination. They are not a settled matter of theology, but an active, ongoing conversation between the pulpit and the home, between the scholar's text and the grandmother's warning, each trying to navigate the unseen fires that flicker at the edges of our world. That friction between doctrine and folk practice reveals a deeper conflict, one that might not be happening in the desert or the home, but within the human mind itself. To truly understand the enduring power of the Djinn, we must turn the lens inward, exploring the possibility that these beings of smokeless fire are also powerful psychological archetypes. From a Jungian perspective, the Djinn could be seen as magnificent metaphors for the shadow self, those repressed, denied, or untamed aspects of our own psyche that we exile into the darkness. Their elemental origin, fire, is a perfect symbol for this. Fire is transformative, creative, and purifying, but it is also chaotic, consuming, and destructive. This duality mirrors the human shadow, which contains not only our rage, jealousy, and pettiness, but also our wild creativity, our primal passion, and our instinctual power qualities that civilization often asks us to suppress. Think of the Djinn's legendary ability to grant wishes. How often does a sudden, impulsive desire feel like it comes from somewhere else? A whispering voice that promises to solve all your problems if you just seize that forbidden object, speak that cruel truth, or abandon your responsibility. That internal whisper, urging you toward a shortcut that you know is wrong, behaves remarkably like a trickster Djinn offering a pact. It presents a solution that bypasses struggle, but the fine print, the hidden cost, is always the integrity of your own character. The wish, when granted, doesn't bring freedom, but entanglement. The Djinn's shape-shifting nature then becomes a profound symbol for the protean, ever-changing face of our own subconscious. Our shadow doesn't have one fixed form. One day it might appear as a figure of seductive temptation, the next as a monster of rage, and the next as a helpless victim begging for rescue. The Djinn that appears as a beautiful stranger, a menacing beast, or a lost child in various stories reflects the many masks our own inner conflicts wear. Their trickster behavior, their delight in literal interpretations and deceptive bargains, mirrors the most frustrating form of self-deception. It is that part of us that rationalizes bad decisions, that convinces us we are acting for noble reasons when we are really serving a hidden hunger, that leads us down a path while promising it's a shortcut to glory. This psychological interpretation does not dismiss the reality of these experiences for those who believe. Instead, it adds a crucial layer of meaning. It suggests that when a person feels oppressed by an unseen presence, haunted by a whispering voice, or compelled by an irrational urge, they might be experiencing a projection of their own internal conflict onto the external world. The Djinn becomes a container, a story, for a battle that is happening inside. The terrifying external entity becomes a way to give form and name to a fear or a desire that feels too vast and alien to acknowledge as part of oneself. This framework makes the old protection rituals deeply meaningful on a new level. The recitation of sacred verses, the insistence on purity and clear intention, can be seen as acts of psychological hygiene and integration. It is the conscious self, the ego fortified by principles and faith, standing firm against the chaotic, persuasive whispers of the shadow. The act of naming the Djinn, of demanding it declare itself, mirrors the therapeutic process of bringing a repressed complex into the light of awareness, where it can be seen, understood, and its power integrated rather than feared. So the next time you hear a tale of a Djinn encounter, consider the double meaning. It might be a story about the unseen world, or it might be an ancient, coded narrative about the civil war within every human soul, a story of our own creative fire, our repressed shadows, and our eternal struggle to command the vast, hidden territories of ourselves. Living with the understanding that the world is shared requires a certain etiquette, a spiritual courtesy for the unseen neighbors. This isn't about fear, but about wisdom, establishing respectful boundaries in a home you didn't build alone. Traditional knowledge across cultures offers a set of practical guidelines, less about magical combat and more about daily spiritual hygiene. The first and most universal protection is found in sound, specifically sacred recitation. In the Islamic tradition, certain verses are considered powerful shields. Ayat al-Kursi, the throne verse, is recited for its encompassing description of divine sovereignty, believed to create a protective sphere around the reciter. The final two chapters of the Quran, Surah al-Falaq and Surah an-Nas, are direct supplications for refuge from the evils of creation, both seen and unseen. Reciting these upon entering a new place before sleep, or when feeling unsettled, isn't a superstition. It's an act of anchoring oneself in a recognized source of spiritual authority, a clear declaration of one's own metaphysical space. The physical environment matters just as much as the spiritual one. Personal and home cleanliness, especially regarding areas associated with impurity, is consistently emphasized. Bathrooms and places for waste are traditionally considered zones where the veil is thin. The lore advises speaking minimally in such spaces, avoiding bringing sacred texts inside, and always maintaining cleanliness. This practice isn't about shame, but about acknowledging the layered nature of reality and minimizing points of attraction or entry for beings drawn to such energies. It's a practical reminder that our physical state can affect our spiritual standing. Beyond the home, your conduct in the wild places, their likely habitats, becomes crucial. When in a deep forest, at a lonely crossroads, or near ancient ruins, mindfulness is your greatest tool. Speak gently. Avoid shouting obscenities or making boastful, challenging statements into the empty air. Do not relieve yourself randomly without first asking permission from the unseen inhabitants of the land, a practice found in various forms from desert traditions to European folklore about the Fae. If you feel a sudden, unexplained chill or the sensation of being watched, do not panic or issue challenges. A simple, calm recitation of a protective prayer or even a polite, firm request to be left in peace is advised over aggressive confrontation. The goal is never to prove your dominance, but to calmly assert your right to safe passage. This entire framework is built on a principle of respect and avoidance. You do not seek them out. You do not attempt to make pacts or prove your bravery by spending the night in a haunted ruin. The old stories are clear. Curiosity is often the first step into a snare. Instead, you live your life with a mindful dignity, tending to your own spiritual and physical cleanliness, and you leave the empty lands to their ancient inhabitants. Think of it as living in a neighborhood with powerful, reclusive neighbors. You don't throw your trash into their yard, you don't shout insults over the fence at night, and you teach your children not to trespass on their property. You maintain your own home in good order. This etiquette is less about supernatural warfare and more about cultivating a state of being that is simply less interesting or accessible to disruptive influences. It is the practice of closing the metaphysical doors you can, speaking with care in the quiet places, and walking through the world not as an owner, but as a respectful guest. In doing so, you honor the old wisdom that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only acknowledged, and you secure your own peace in a universe far more populous than it appears. His mastery of this spiritual etiquette finds its most legendary expression in a single ancient king. The stories of Solomon, or Suleiman in Arabic, represent the absolute pinnacle of human authority over the world of the Djinn. He stands as the ultimate binder, the one ruler who did not just negotiate or coexist, but commanded their vast power with divine sanction. The Quran and centuries of folklore paint a portrait of a prophet king whose dominion extended far beyond human kingdoms. His God-given authority was symbolized by a ring, often called the Seal of Solomon, a signet that granted him command over forces unseen. With this ring, he did not merely speak to animals and understand their languages, he commanded the very wind itself to carry his throne across vast distances in the blink of an eye. And most significantly, he held sovereignty over the Djinn. They were not his allies or his friends, but his compelled workforce. The lore tells us he would assemble legions of them, along with the birds and the wind, and put them to monumental tasks. They were forced to dive to the ocean floor to retrieve pearls and corals, to mine the deepest recesses of the earth for precious metals and gems, and to construct works of staggering scale. The most famous of these is the first temple in Jerusalem, said to have been built with Djinn labor, their fiery essence and supernatural strength shaping stone and raising pillars in ways human hands could not. This was not a partnership of equals, but a divinely ordained hierarchy, with Solomon at its apex, directing the hidden forces of creation as an architect directs his materials. The stories emphasize the totality of his control, a king so powerful that even the rebellious and proud Djinn had no choice but to bow to his will, their innate trickery and power neutralized by the sacred authority invested in him. Yet there is one haunting story about Solomon's, and that reveals the fragile nature of even this supreme command. The myth of his death is a profound parable. As the tale goes, Solomon died while leaning on his staff, overseeing the ceaseless labor of the Djinn. His body remained upright, supported by the staff, and for a long period, some say a year, the Djinn continued their toil. They saw his unmoving form and, believing he was still alive and watching them, dared not pause or rebel. the illusion of control persisted through the mere posture of authority. The truth was only revealed when a humble creature, a termite or an ant depending on the telling, began to gnaw at the wooden staff. It ate through the base until the staff could no longer support the king's weight. Sulayman's body fell to the ground, and in that moment, the Djinn realized they had been laboring for a master who was already gone. The spell of compulsion was broken. This story serves as the ultimate caution within the legend of ultimate power. It illustrates that even the most absolute command over the Djinn is temporary, bound to a mortal life. Their service was tied to Sulayman's living will, and when that will departed, the illusion of control crumbled as easily as a worm-eaten staff. Sulayman's story represents the dream of perfect mastery, but its ending whispers the eternal truth: no human, no matter how divinely favored, holds the leash on that primordial fire forever. Sulayman's fallen form reveals a final truth about command. But what if the greatest mastery lies not in binding the fiery other, but in transforming the fire within ourselves? This is where the ancient lore of the Djinn converges with a secretive Western tradition, the path of alchemy. For centuries, European alchemists toiled in hidden laboratories, not merely to turn lead into gold, but to achieve a spiritual metamorphosis. At the heart of their great work was a mysterious agent of change, a substance they called the ignes in naturalis, the unnatural fire. This was not ordinary flame, but a subtle, living fire that could transmute matter and spirit. Listen to that description, a subtle, living fire. Does it not echo, unmistakably, the primordial smokeless fire from which the Djinn were forged? This is no mere coincidence of metaphor. In the symbolic language of esotericism, the Djinn and the alchemist's inner fire are reflections of the same profound principle, the volatile, transformative energy that exists at the core of all creation. The alchemist's quest was to awaken this fire within their own being and guide it through a precise series of stages, often coded as colors: negrito, albedo, citrinitas, rubido, the blackening, whitening, yellowing, and reddening. Each stage represented a death and rebirth of the self. The lead, the base material, was the unrefined human soul, burdened with primal passions, chaotic desires, and the shadowy impulses we've already explored. The gold was not metallic wealth, but the perfected, illuminated self, a state of spiritual purity and wisdom. So how does one turn the leaden self into gold? By mastering the inner Djinn, think of your own raw emotions, your sudden angers, your consuming jealousies, your restless ambitions. In their ungoverned state, they are like a rebellious Ifrit, chaotic and destructive, capable of burning down your peace, your relationships, your sense of purpose. The alchemical process begins with calcinatio, the burning. This is the stage where the base matter is subjected to intense heat, a symbolic confrontation with one's own fiery nature. It is the moment you stare into your own rage or lust, not to be consumed by it, but to acknowledge its immense transformative power. This is the critical first step. You must recognize the Djinn within before you can hope to command it. The subsequent stages involve purification, washing away the ashes of the burnt ego, and finally, reunification. The once wild and separate fire is integrated, becoming the very engine of your enlightenment. In this light, the cautionary tales of Djinn pacts take on a breathtaking new meaning. The sorcerer who seeks to bind an external Djinn to gain treasure is engaging in a dangerous shortcut, a spiritual fraud. He is trying to steal the gold without undergoing the painful, necessary burning of his own lead. His inevitable ruin is the story of every soul that seeks power without purification. The true alchemist, however, does not seek to summon a fire from a desert or a lamp. He tends the furnace of his own heart. His rituals are not incantations to control an external being, but disciplines of meditation, ethical living, and focused will, designed to stoke and direct his inner flame. His talismans are not seals to trap a married, but symbolic diagrams, like the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, representing the cyclical nature of self-transformation, where one's own energy is consumed and reborn. When the old texts speak of King Solomon commanding the Jinn to build a temple, could this also be read as an allegory? Solomon, the wise king, represents the enlightened mind. The temple is the perfected soul, and the Jinn are the harnessed, formidable powers of his own inner nature, directed consciously toward a sacred architecture. The story tells us that when the king's conscious will was absent, the labor ceased, and the Jinn were freed. So too, in our own inner work, the moment we cease our conscious attention, our disciplined practice, the inner fires revert to chaos. Our temple remains unfinished. This alchemical perspective completes a circle, linking the external mythology to the most intimate internal journey. The Jinn are not just beings out there in the lonely places, they are the living, fiery substance of our own potential. The empty lands they inhabit are also the uncharted territories of our subconscious. The choice presented by centuries of lore is now laid bare. Do you seek to bind the fire, or do you dare to become the alchemist, and through the slow, patient heat of your own great work, transmute yourself? The alchemist's inner fire finds its shadow in the outer darkness of modern obsession. While most traditional cultures practice respectful avoidance, a fringe undercurrent actively seeks communion, transforming the Jinn from feared neighbors into objects of worship. This is not folklore anymore, it is a deliberate, modern esoteric path, and its practitioners can be found in surprising corners of the globe. In parts of North Africa and the Middle East, secretive groups, often operating online or in tight-knit urban circles, move beyond protective rituals into active veneration. They may refer to the Jinn as mighty ones or ancient powers, viewing them not as Islamic beings subject to God, but as pre-Islamic deities in their own right, spirits of the land who never surrendered their sovereignty. Their practices are a syncretic blend of old grimoire techniques, local folk magic, and New Age channeling. Altars might be set up in remote areas. Offerings of specific foods, incense, or even blood are left to establish a connection. The goal is rarely the classic 3 wishes. It is often knowledge, spiritual power, or a sense of belonging to something older and more potent than mainstream religion. In Southeast Asia, particularly in Indonesia and Malaysia, similar groups exist, sometimes intertwining Jinn lore with local animistic beliefs and even elements of Hindu Tantra. Here, a practitioner might seek to bind a Jinn not to a lamp, but to a personal talisman or even their own body through intense meditation and mantra, aiming to harness the entity's power for healing, business success, or social influence. The internet has globalized this pursuit. Online forums and social media channels are filled with individuals sharing elaborate rituals, comparing sigils, and reporting their contact experiences. They trade tips on the best times to summon, the most effective offerings for different Jinn classes, and methods for astral projection to meet them in their own realms. For these seekers, the Jinn are the ultimate transgressive secret, a hidden spiritual reality that mainstream society has forgotten or suppressed. The danger here is multifaceted. On a practical level, these groups often operate without the safeguards of traditional frameworks. A folk healer might have generations of nuanced knowledge about negotiation and protection. These modern practitioners often work from fragmented online sources, playing with forces they fundamentally misunderstand. The psychological risks are immense. The pursuit can foster paranoia, megalomania, or a complete dissociation from reality as the individual becomes consumed by the relationship. There is also the spiritual peril recognized by Orthodox traditions, that by offering worship or forming pacts with these beings, one is essentially stepping outside the protective order of the divine, making oneself a beacon for entities whose motives are forever inscrutable. Stories emerge from these circles of practitioners who achieved initial, stunning results, only to see their lives unravel in bizarre and tragic ways, a pattern chillingly familiar from the oldest cautionary tales. This modern evolution completes a profound circle. The Jinn have journeyed from the worshipped desert gods of antiquity to the integrated spiritual beings of classical theology, to the pop culture genie, and now in the digital age, they have returned as objects of active worship for a new kind of seeker. Their story is not a linear progression but a spiral, forever returning to the same core human yearning to reach beyond the visible world, to find power and meaning in the empty lands, both outside and within. Yet for every tale of a haunting presence, there exists a sheet of data and a clinical diagnosis. The rationalist viewpoint offers a compelling counter-narrative, one that seeks to explain Djinn phenomena not through smokeless fire, but through the intricate workings of the human brain and body. Take the universal experience of the night terror. Across cultures, people report waking paralyzed, sensing a crushing weight on their chest, and seeing a malevolent figure in the room. In the West, this is the old hag syndrome. In many Muslim cultures, this precise experience is immediately attributed to a jinn sitting on the sleeper's chest. Neuroscience identifies this as sleep paralysis, a glitch in the REM cycle where the brain's motor cortex is still issuing the paralysis command that prevents us from acting out our dreams, while the conscious mind snaps awake. The feeling of pressure, the hallucinations of shadowy figures, these are the brain's desperate attempt to make sense of its own confused state, often drawing imagery from the deepest wells of cultural fear. The entity at the foot of the bed is not an intruder from another dimension, but a projection from the mind's own shadowy backstage. Then there is the environment itself. Certain locations feel inherently haunted, charged with a palpable dread. Research into infrasound, sound waves below the threshold of human hearing, suggests a physical cause. These low-frequency vibrations, generated by geological faults, strong winds, or even old building infrastructure, can induce feelings of anxiety, sorrow, and the distinct sensation of being watched. They can cause visual distortion, making peripheral shadows seem to move. A person standing in an ancient ruin, where wind whistles through cracks at just the right frequency, may be physically primed by infrasound to feel an uncanny presence, their brain then labeling that feeling with the most culturally available explanation, a jinn. Psychological conditions provide another framework. Cases of supposed possession with dramatic physical symptoms can sometimes be traced to dissociative identity disorder or other forms of severe psychological trauma, where the mind creates alternate personas as a coping mechanism. The changing voices, the altered personalities, the reported amnesia, all have parallels in clinical psychiatry. Furthermore, the immense power of suggestion in a strong cultural context cannot be overstated. If you are raised in a community where every unexplained noise is a jinn, every stroke of bad luck a result of the evil eye, your mind is trained to interpret ambiguity through that lens. A child who hears a jinn story at bedtime may later experience sleep paralysis and perfectly recall the described entity, reinforcing the belief in a feedback loop of fear and expectation. Skeptics and scientists like psychologist Richard Weissman or the late astronomer Carl Sagan have long argued that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. They point to the complete lack of reproducible, physical proof for Djinn, and the way these experiences perfectly mirror known psychological and physiological phenomena. For them, the persistence of the belief is a case study in human pattern seeking, our evolutionary tendency to attribute agency to random events, a trait that once helped us avoid predators but now fills the dark with intelligent shadows. This rationalist dissection does not dismiss the intensity of the experience. The terror of sleep paralysis is utterly real. The dread induced by infrasound is a measurable physiological response. The psychological suffering in cases of alleged possession is profound and needs compassionate care. The skeptic's argument is that by misattributing these experiences to external supernatural entities, we may overlook the real, treatable causes within our own biology and psychology, and in doing so, we surrender our understanding to mystery when science offers a path to clarity. This balance is crucial, for it acknowledges the raw power of the human experience while grounding it in the observable world. Perhaps the most vital role of the Djinn has been hiding in plain sight for millennia. Beyond monsters, wish-granters, or psychological archetypes, they may represent humanity's oldest environmental conscience. This eco-spiritual interpretation invites us to see certain classes of Djinn not as random spirits, but as the ancient personification of the Earth's own consciousness, the living spirit of place. Consider the Marid, traditionally associated with vast bodies of water, the deep seas and great rivers. Could the tales of powerful, often temperamental Marid be a way of describing the awesome and unpredictable force of the ocean itself, its moods, its bounty, and its destructive power? To anger a Marid was to disrespect the water, to pollute a spring or waste a precious resource, and the resulting calamity, a drought, a flood, a poisoned well, was the environment's response, narrated as the vengeance of a fiery being. Similarly, the Sila, often connected to domestic spaces and sometimes benevolent, might be seen as the guardian spirit of a homestead, the health of the local land and the harmony of the household intertwined. Stories of a Sila bringing fortune to a family that keeps its home clean and treats its animals kindly, or bringing misfortune to one that is wasteful and cruel, read as clear parables for sustainable living. The ghoul of the desert wastes embodies the harsh, scavenging reality of life in an extreme ecosystem, a reminder that the barren places have their own rules and their own inhabitants, both seen and unseen. In this light, the Djinn become the genius loci, the specific spirit of a forest, a mountain, a cave, or a crossroads. They are the story we tell to give voice to the land itself. This reframes countless old warnings. The traveler who relieves himself in a sacred spring without asking permission and is later found ill or mad is not being punished by a capricious monster, but is suffering the consequences of violating a delicate natural balance, of introducing impurity into a water source. The woodcutter who takes too much from a grove without an offering and is led in circles until dawn is facing the embodied resistance of the forest to exploitation. These narratives encoded a profound ecological wisdom in an age before environmental science. They taught that the world is not a dead resource to be used, but a living community to be negotiated with. The empty lands were not actually empty, they were full of presences that demanded respect. This interpretation transforms the Djinn from figures of fear into potential allies, ancient protectors of the balance we are now scrambling to relearn. Their legendary anger at defilement mirrors our modern understanding of toxic runoff and deforestation. Their traditional habitats, the untouched desert, the deep forest, the pristine spring, are precisely the ecosystems we now fight to preserve. The old tales suggest our ancestors understood, on an intuitive level, that the health of the human community was inseparable from the health of the land spirits. To ignore the Djinn was not just a spiritual risk, it was an ecological one. This living tradition now stands at a unique crossroads, shaped by forces its desert origins could never have foreseen. The future of Djinn lore is being written not in sand, but in the flickering light of digital screens and the interconnected currents of a globalized world. As traditional oral storytelling declines in many communities, replaced by the instant narratives of film and social media, one might expect these ancient beings to fade into obscurity, becoming mere footnotes of cultural history. Yet the opposite seems to be happening. The Djinn are not disappearing, they are migrating and mutating, finding new life in the very technology that was supposed to rationalize the world away. The internet has become the modern liminal space, a digital crossroads where belief, experience, and fiction bleed into one another. Online forums, from Reddit threads to dedicated occult subcultures, buzz with shared encounters. Someone in Norway posts about a shadow figure in their new apartment, and a commenter from Egypt immediately identifies its behavior with a classic Djinn account. A teenager in Texas describes a vivid, recurring dream of a fiery figure offering a bargain, and receives advice on protective prayers from users in Indonesia and Morocco. This global conversation is creating a new hybrid mythology. The Djinn are being detached from their specific theological and geographic roots, becoming part of a universal lexicon of the paranormal, yet they retain their core characteristics, their fiery essence, their trickster nature, their demand for respect. This digital ecosystem allows the lore to evolve in real time. A modern encounter in a subway tunnel or a data center is analyzed through the ancient framework, stretching and testing its boundaries. Will the Djinn adapt to haunt fiber optic cables and the static of a disconnected screen? The stories are already being written. Simultaneously, we are witnessing a powerful revival of interest in the occult, animism, and earth-based spirituality, particularly among younger generations disillusioned with rigid institutional structures. In this search for a more enchanted worldview, the Djinn offer a compelling template, a pre-existing, complex system for understanding a conscious, interactive universe. They are not simple spirits, they are a complete parallel civilization with free will, making them far more interesting to a modern seeker than a simple ghost or demon. This positions Djinn lore for a potential renaissance, not as a superstition to be believed literally, but as a profound metaphor and a map for navigating a world that feels increasingly chaotic and unseen. They become symbols of the wild, untamed aspects of reality that our hyper-controlled, digital lives try to suppress. The future likely holds not one path, but three intertwined threads. First, a continued fictionalization, where the Djinn become even more embedded in global pop culture, video games, and fantasy series, further simplifying their image but ensuring their name endures. Second, a dedicated esoteric revival, where small, serious groups study the classical texts and grimoires, seeking authentic practice over fantasy. And third, a new, organic folklore born from the internet itself, a collective crafting of stories where the Djinn adapt to the anxieties of the 21st century, haunting not deserts, but the loneliness of urban life and the vast, empty spaces of the digital frontier. The lore survives because it answers a deep, perennial human need. It gives shape to the feeling of a presence in the empty server room at 3 a.m., to the uncanny sense that an algorithm knows too much, to the haunting suspicion that the world is far stranger and more alive than it appears. The Djinn, in all their fiery ambiguity, are ready for their next evolution. Their story is an epic of fire and shadow, a journey across the tapestry of human belief. We began with the raw desert winds, where ancient tribes honored powerful spirits as gods and guardians of the land. We witnessed a revelation that transformed those capricious deities into a formal nation of beings, the Djinn, creatures of smokeless fire with free will and a destiny alongside humanity. We explored their hidden hierarchies from mighty Merid trickster ghoul and mapped their realms in the wild, liminal spaces of our world. We saw the dangerous allure of pacts and grimoires, the profound struggle of possession, and the poignant tales of unexpected connection. Their image was distilled into a genie in a lamp by a distant culture, simplifying a vast civilization into a wish-granting trope. Yet we also found them reflected in the Fae and the Yokai, a global chorus speaking of the other. We considered them as interdimensional beings, as psychic thought forms, and most intimately, as mirrors of our own inner chaos and potential, the alchemical fire within. We saw modern seekers worshiping them anew and skeptics explaining them away through neuroscience and suggestion. Through every lens, from the ecological to the digital, their narrative persists, refusing to be extinguished. This entire odyssey circles a single, blazing core. The Djinn represent humanity's timeless fascination with the hidden, the powerful, and the profoundly other. They are the story we tell when the wind has a voice, when the darkness feels conscious, when we sense a presence in the empty room of the universe. They give form to our deepest questions about what, or who, might share this reality with us. So as the echoes of this journey settle, a final, reflective question remains for you. Are the Djinn merely brilliant stories, a cultural technology crafted over millennia to explain sleep paralysis, infrasound, and the terrifying unknown? Or do these persistent legends, in all their fiery complexity, point to a deeper, more mysterious layer of existence, a reality that is far more layered and alive than our science has yet been able to map? The answer, perhaps, is less important than the question itself. It is the act of asking, of peering into the ancient fire, that keeps the mystery alive. What do you think? Share your thoughts, your own family stories, or your theories in the comments below. If this exploration into the hidden history of the beings made from fire captivated you, consider subscribing for more journeys into the esoteric and the unexplained. Thank you for listening.